Hi, it's me again, Shelley. This week, for our discussion board with the primary sources, I really wanted to look at something that has kind of been near and dear to me at the high school where I teach, and that's the First Continental Congress. We tend to ignore it in our haste to get from the Boston Tea Party to the Declaration of Independence, and we gloss over all these tensions that are rising, and I think we miss some really important ideas and principles that are emerging at this time. Really, the inspiration for this is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. Hamilton the musical. I was actually listening through the musical as I was working on this, and when Farmer Refuted came on, it struck me that I'd never read those documents, and I'd never read excerpts of those documents, and I was probably missing something. Once I did start going through them, I realized that there's a lot of history to unpack. There are a lot of ideas to unpack on both sides of this argument about whether rebellion was right or even calling the Continental Congress was right. So I realized that if we took the popularity of the musical, the historical documents, a little bit of investigative work, and a little bit of critical thinking, we could really have a really great lesson on the Continental Congress. I chose the opening and closing salvos much like the song did. A note, these documents are very lengthy for especially a high schooler or an undergraduate. For a graduate student, not too much to get into, but for a high schooler or undergrad, you would probably need to excerpt these pretty heavily. A little backstory. Samuel Seabury was the rector of St. Peter's Church in Westchester, New York. He was 45 years old. He was a published minister and very well respected. He wrote a pamphlet called Free Thoughts on the Proceedings of the Continental Congress, published in 1774. And basically he said that the decision of the Continental Congress to basically declare economic war on Great Britain with the Continental Association was wrong. He said these men deserve to be denounced, they should be condemned, and they shouldn't be praised. Alexander Hamilton, who is a 18, maybe 19-year-old college student at King's College, answers him back with a pamphlet called Full Vindication of the Measures of Congress. It's basically what's on the tin. The people of Westchester aren't listening. They're loyal to God and their minister, and they're not going to listen to Hamilton. But Seabury answers him back, and he answers with another pamphlet, and this time he challenges Hamilton directly to a debate by essay. And Hamilton, astoundingly, does not escalate things in the press, except for this one little piece in which he says that people like Seabury were, quote, too much blinded to perceive the fierce of just argumentation. This is just Hamilton. Seabury comes back. Again, they're back and forth with these pamphlets until the last one Hamilton publishes in February 1775 with The Farmer Refuted. And he just answers back and says, the delegates have every right to meet in Philadelphia, that we can react and resist Parliament without being disloyal to the king, and that the things that Parliament was doing were wrong. And it's, again, a very lengthy piece, but poignant arguments. Now, how would I use this in a classroom? Easy. I would just pose the questions to the students. For example, who was Samuel Seabury? Why was he important? Why was he somebody who should be listened to? Who was Alexander Hamilton? Why would anyone listen to him? Why would Seabury take the position that he did? Why would Hamilton? And I would really love to ask them, would you consider Alexander Hamilton as a radical? And ask them why or why not. And I think we could make some real connections to things that are happening in our modern world and this idea of labeling people with this term radical. It's just my take on how we can connect the past to pop culture and the present. Thanks.